manager coming in and getting the players to believe in themselves.
From what I'm told, nobody at this stage is lined up to come in and replace Igor Tudor.
I find that absolutely astonishing that they don't have anybody in place.
I don't think there is an answer. I think, seriously, we are going to struggle to get those 6 points that we need. It is dire. The board have stitched us up.
We understand Roberto De Zerbi is close to agreeing a long-term offer from Spurs, which includes a hefty survival bonus. Spurs have a bit of time as they don't play for another 2 weeks. And here's Brighton chief exec Paul Barber on what De Zerbi could offer Spurs.
Not differences as such. I mean, Roberto did 2 fabulous years with us. We got into Europe for the first time in the club's history. We worked really hard to entertain the fans, which we did. Roberto is a fantastic character to work with, and obviously we wished him well when he went to Marseille, and let's see what the future brings for him, maybe back in England.
It's really big. Chief exec at Brighton there, Paul Barber, talking about the good things that Roberto De Zerbi has done. He did do a lot of good things for Brighton before leaving, but now he's going to walk into a lot different looking Spurs side. Let's welcome in Chris Cowlin from the Spurs Chat Pod. Chris, every time we speak, mate, something else has changed. Roberto De Zerbi looks like he's heading into Spurs. Is this the right move?
Every time we speak, Flex, as you say, we're on to the third manager of the season, 4 managers in the last 10 months since winning the Europa League, and yeah, here we go again. But, you know, these next 7 games are absolutely huge for the future of the football club and Premier League status. But Roberto De Zerbi, if you look online and you talk to a number of Spurs fans right now, the feeling is extremely mixed. You know, some people, see the great entertaining football that he has played at the likes of Brighton in the Premier League, and, you know, that is a huge plus that he does have Premier League experience. But of course, it is a big risk. You know, what isn't a risk when you've got 7 games to go and you're sitting 1 point above the relegation zone? You know, we waited 44 days with Igor Tudor. We waited a long time for Thomas Frank to go out the door. So, from what we understand, Roberto De Zerbi didn't want to come in for these final 7 games. He wanted to wait until the summer. I completely get that. But the club are in a real state, and the manager, you know, whoever does come in, and it does look like it is going to be De Zerbi, he needs to get the very best out of the players immediately. He needs to be a real impact, you know, immediately. This must be immediate. The players need to step up. The players need to give more. We've said on various shows already that, you know, these players are underperforming and the players need to give more, but it is about the manager getting more from the players and ultimately getting the points.
I love the weekly Cowlin. This is my favourite moment every week on the show right now, because obviously you see a lot of differing opinions from Spurs fans, but I really value your opinion and rate what you say, Chris. How do you feel about De Zerbi? Because surely this could have been done like 44 days ago. They should have pushed the boat out 44 days ago if he's the manager that they wanted. And, you know, you say he's got Premier League experience, but I read earlier that I don't think he won a game in his first 5 at Brighton, and you're saying you kind of need that instant impact. His football is quite complicated and sophisticated. Like, you need wins now, and that might not be him. You're absolutely right, Dan. It takes time, and you're absolutely right about the record at Brighton. The first 5 that he drew 2 and lost 3, and the Marseille first 5 he won 4 and he drew 1. So we certainly need that version, but it does take time. And when you listen to previous players that they've played under De Zerbi, it all does take time. And if you'd allow me to quote Lewis Dunk in 2023 talking about De Zerbi, he said that the first couple of weeks were horrendous, and the players were confused, and training changed dramatically, and it was a really hard transition. This can't happen at Tottenham. You know, these players need to give absolutely everything immediately. The message needs to be extremely clear. The man management needs to be extremely good, and that's what worries a lot of people, because he's fallen out with, you know, various boards. He has fallen out with various players at previous clubs. To give him a 5-year deal, I think this is where the club are in a real situation, because he is just basically dictating what he wants, and the club at the moment are just saying, okay, we'll give whatever you want for him to come in. And from what I understand also, that he's going to have a relegation clause as well. So he could only be here for 7 games if Spurs do go down, but you know, I'm certainly not hoping for that, you know, because when you look at the Championship table, you know, it's just full of ex-Premier League teams, and
Premier League teams sometimes just don't return because, given the decision making and the poor decisions that we have made as a football club and as a board and as owners, there's so much change. Since winning the Europa League, back in May, we've had a different board come in. You've had different managers. The players need to give a whole lot more, and there's just been so much change. A lot needs to happen in the summer. More changes need to be made, but better decisions need to be made ultimately.
This is the big thing, isn't it? Like, he walks into Brighton, who were a stable Premier League club at the time, who were riding high in the Premier League, and takes over from Graham Potter. Goes into Marseille at the start of a summer and gets influence and impact on the kind of players he wants. Like, to come into an unstable football club right now, I can't get away from the fact that it doesn't feel like a great fit, Chris.
No, and I think you're right. I can't sit here and defend that. I think ask me, 7 games' time how this has gone, because this could either be a fantastic move or it could be an absolute disaster again. But as both you guys have said, 44 days of Igor Tudor, what a waste of time that was. And, we were very, very well beaten in the games that Igor Tudor managed. 1 point from a possible 15, that was not good enough. And we're now finding ourselves in this situation where we are almost desperate, to get Roberto De Zerbi in. But, he's going to take time to implement what he wants these players to do. But I think he just needs to keep things extremely simple, make these players extremely well drilled. Sandro, the former Spurs star, he speaks very, very fondly of Sandro, and he's worked with him in the last couple of years as well, doing his coaching badges. I just hope that someone like Sandro comes in with De Zerbi and gives that passion, because he is a very, very passionate guy, and Spurs need, like I've said to you guys before, I think that someone affiliated to the club and either an ex-player or an ex-manager, I felt that was the right move for Tottenham at this stage, but here we are again.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that point up, Chris, because I was going to ask you what you think about that in contrast to where they've gone, because yes, they have gone Premier League, proving someone who knows the division, but no affiliation to Spurs, and there was a very short amount of time. How big of an impact do you think that will have, the fact that there isn't, maybe there could be a Sandro, but that they didn't go for that? We saw Glenn Hoddle a little bit linked with it. Maybe I saw even some rumours saying that Ben Davies could be, a player manager. Jermaine Defoe's gone to Woking. There was nothing really on Robbie Keane. How big of an impact do you think that will have negatively, potentially, the fact that there isn't that Spurs conglomerate in there to try and get the players to understand and feel their way through this and survive?
Well, it's a funny one, Flex, because if you listen to the fan base and you listen to a lot of ex-players, ex-managers, etc., everyone is saying the same thing, including myself. You need someone who knows the football club to go in there and who gets it, and it means something to them, and they want to keep Spurs up, from being relegated to the Championship. So this is another decision that the board have made, and the board clearly don't want to go down that route of former Spurs players, managers, etc., and they clearly don't want to go down the route of Mauricio Pochettino either, who the crowd are singing his name, virtually every game, and they are extremely supportive of him. And when I looked at a report earlier from Transfer Market, and they've stated that Spurs have spent nearly £1 billion on transfers, on loans and transfers, since Pochettino left in 2019. Now, you wouldn't think it, would you, on the pitch, because we have been extremely poor and decisions have been really poor. And, when a lot of people talk about Pochettino, for example, they wanted Poch to be really backed. He went through a stage at the club of not spending a penny in 518 days, multiple transfer windows. And when you think we've spent all that money on transfers, wasted transfers, some players have been really poor that have come in, and it just hasn't been good enough. So I just think so much needs to change in the summer. Either the owners need to sell, or either something drastic needs to change, because when they're talking now about giving De Zerbi a 5-year contract, I think a lot of people are scratching their heads, because half of De Zerbi's appointments, he's actually lasted 30 or less games.
Exactly.
We know that
he didn't do the last 2 games. He didn't last more than 90. Last 2 clubs didn't last longer than 90 games, I read.
Yeah, we know that this isn't a guy that is going to spend a long time at a football club. And like I've said to you guys before, since 2019 of Pochettino leaving and moving in that stadium, we've gone through 6 permanent managers, 4 interim or caretaker appointments, and we're now about to appoint a 7th permanent manager since 2019. 7 in 7 years. This is absolutely crazy. We cannot keep going on like this. But if you're going to give someone a 5-year contract and you have a long-term plan and you want to back the manager and show real ambition, then don't talk about it. Just do it.
Chris, mate, this one hasn't been fun. I'm not gonna lie. Like we do like to hear from you, and Dan says this is his favourite part of the week. But, mate, this is where we're at. We're constantly being bantered. And I'll tell you what, we're on the 31st of March. What's the bet in that it's April Fool's Day tomorrow? What's the bet in that he gets announced on April Fool's Day? Oh, mate.
Yeah, you can see it.
But I don't know. We're seeing a lot on Sky News, Sky Sports now. Surely it's going to be today. But you know what? You might be onto something, Chris.
I don't know whether that will give Dan an extra smile on his face. But,
when I say
I don't want to be the banter here.
No. When I say I look forward to talking to you, it's not from banter perspective at all. I just enjoy your perspective.
He's lying,
on
Chris.
Tottenham. I know.
I get it.
Oh, mate, Chris, thank you for talking to us, mate, and hopefully your boys can start delivering on the pitch. Chris Cowlin there from the Spurs.